Welcome everyone to Beat the Game. My name's Steve, and today let's talk about the villains and why I keep losing to these villains. Alright, so this is going to be a new series. We're going to go through the villains of Marvel Champions and why do people or why do players keep losing to these characters? Alright, what is the main reasons that we lose to certain scenarios over and over? So we're going to start our little video here. We're going to talk about standard difficulty, and then we're going to talk about expert difficulty as well, because it's very close. There's not that much of a difference between standard and expert once you get used to the game. All right. So first things first, let's look at our friend Rhino here. So one thing that we'll notice in Rhino on stage 1 and stage 2 is that he schemes for 1. And when you start on stage 1, he attacks for 2. Stage 2, he attacks for 3. Now let's take a look. What does he look like if I'm playing expert? I'm starting on stage 1 and then going to stage 2, and moving to stage 3. Again, he only schemes for 1, but he does have an attack of 4 and an enter and when he revealed ability. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, the main reason why people lose against Rhino is very simple. We don't take care of threat on the main scheme. That is the number one reason why we lose against Rhino. Maybe because we're too much in a hurry. All we think about is, I can just plow through him, just deal as much damage as I can. But the game sometimes will give us roadblocks. And if we play in a certain way where we're just focusing on one thing, sometimes the things that we ignore come back and bite us in the butt. And this is 99% of the times when you are going to lose against Rhino is because this. All right. The break-in only has a threshold of 7. So if you are ignoring this and just trying to do damage, all right, turn 1, all right, I'm doing damage. Turn 2, doing damage. Ooh, I took a big hit. Turn 3, I'm doing damage. Okay, ooh, I didn't take care of this. Now I'm at 4 health. Oh man, I have to flip. Oh man, I have to flip now. Oh man, I should have taken care of this. I have to flip though, I'm gonna die. What is worse? Dying of threat or dying of damage? All right, so this is one thing that's gonna happen. This is a scenario, maybe you can relate to this. I know those were the common mistakes I was making when I first started playing this game. I used to ignore threat for damage. Once I started reversing that and just ignore damage to control threat and then deal damage when I'm ready to deal damage, wow. This whole game went from, oh man, this is so hard, to, yeah, I can deal with a Shadow of the Past. If you see my videos, you know that 90% of my games, it's always coming in. Oh wow, okay, that MODOK. Okay, yeah, MODOK. All right, whatever. He's there. I'll take care of him. The way, I think this is one of the main things is you'll see that once you change your mentality or the approach you have when you look at the game as not a race, but as a, hey, let's take our time. Let's figure stuff out. Because every decision you take is going to affect the game in a certain way. So, it's very easy to blame, this hero can't do this and this hero can't do that. But you are the player. You are the one controlling the cards that you have in your hand. You are the one who built your deck. You are the one who is making the decisions. So I don't think it's very fair to blame a certain character for the decisions you make. All right. So the more we think about this, and again, going up against Rhino, the more obvious this is going to become. So one of the main things with Rhino is if I choose to ignore this threat and then I have to be in a position where I have to recover and then, but I chose to ignore this, this is what's going to make me lose the game every time. All right. Now, Rhino in his kit, going to alter ego, you should never be afraid to go to alter ego as long as you control this. If you keep this down to 1 or to 0, you will be fine. All right? Especially if you're playing standard. Now, if you're playing standard, let me explain. If you go to alter ego and there's 0 threat here, okay? So it's going to go up by 1. We're talking solo here. Because multiplayer, then Rhino is, you have a lot more leeway to go down an alter ego and not be afraid of anything. But in solo, it's going to go from 0 to 1, okay? Provided that there's no side schemes or anything like that. It's going to go from 0 to 1. He is going to scheme for 1 plus a boost. Now, here's a little bit of statistics maybe you didn't know. If you're playing Bomb Scare with the standard 7, there is 9 cards with 0 boost icons. That means he's only going to scheme for the 1. So it's going to go from 1 to 2. There is 11 cards that have 1 pip. So that is 1. So it's going to go from 2 to 3. Yeah, okay, still not that bad. If you are playing on standard, there is 10 cards that are going to go a +2. So it's going to go from 1 to 4, which is still not bad. So again, and even if you get that advance, okay, he might go from 5. He has to get another +2. But it's 66% of the deck. You only have a 33% chance of him scheming for 3. All right, a boost of 2. All right. If you are playing on expert, there is now 12 cards that have a 2 pip, and then 1 card with a 3 pip. And that's, again, if you're only playing with the Bomb Scare. So again, you should never be afraid to go to Alter Ego against Rhino, especially in the early game. All right? Take the time to build. Even if you're not recovering, go down to Alter Ego. Use those Alter Ego abilities, but just keep in mind, this has to be under control. Do not flip if you have 3 or 4 on it because you chose to ignore it. Then you are almost guaranteed to lose the game. So let's look at some of the easy cards. Some of the cards that, you know what, Rhino has in his deck that, you know what, you should never be afraid of. This is basically a breather card or just an easy card. His Armored Suit. Armored Suit, you just need to deal 5 damage and then that goes away. Easy street. I'm tough. The only thing you need to do is if ever he's tough, get rid of the tough and then this is not going to surge. So very, very easy card. Hard to keep down. If he has, if you haven't dealt any damage to him, which is very rare because that's all you have to do when you are on turn 1 because there's no side scheme unless you're playing on expert. Just make sure you deal him at least 1 point of damage and then you can flip down to Alter Ego. And if he gets that, it's not going to surge. He's just going to heal for 1 or for 4 or for whatever. And then you're safe. All right. Again, super easy card to deal with. The Hydra Mercenaries. Okay, they're a little annoying. They have guard. But it's not going to make you scared to go to Alter Ego because they scheme for nothing. All right? So that, again, is a very, very easy peasy card to deal with. Assault. All right? Assault is it's an extra attack. So if you get the Assault, whatever, take the hit or, just defend and then go down to Alter Ego and then recover and then you're fine. Next turn you get more cards in your hand and then just keep going. So these are very easy cards. Gang Up, as long as there's not 10 minions into play, this card is basically another assault, right? If there's 1 minion in front of you, this card it's not too dangerous. Most of the time it's just Rhino attacking you again. All right, whatever. You can deal with that. It's not too bad. Hydra Bombers. All right, this is a level 2 danger. All right, we got level 1 danger, level 2 danger. Hydra Bombers. The only reason why they're a level 2 is because they can scheme for 1. So if you do decide to go to Alter Ego, just make sure you get rid of these guys first. They also have an Enter the Battlefield effect or Enter Play, where when they are revealed. I'm confusing my magic with that. They have a when revealed effect, which only triggers if they are revealed as an encounter card, is to either take 2 damage or place 1 threat on the main scheme. So if you're like, I don't want to take damage, I'll place 1 threat and then I'll go to Alter Ego and then you left them here and you didn't take care of them. Well, that's an actual 2 extra threat that can actually make you lose the game. So again, most of the time, just take the damage, whatever. You can always recover. That's the thing, the beauty about your character. Your character can always recover. So damage is, use damage as a resource. So the Hydro Bombers, just make sure you get rid of them before you flip to Alter Ego, and then you should never be scared. Caught Off Guard, the only reason I put it as a level 2 threat is is if you get it on turn 1 and you just put down your nice shiny new Avengers Mansion and there's nothing else in play and you have to discard it, or you're playing, let's say, Captain America and you have your shield and you're like, oh no! So again, I really tend to tell people, build, put a lot of upgrades, put a lot of support cards, and the reason why you put a lot of those is just, if ever there's one that you don't care about, there's always one that you're going to put in, like, okay, I'll put my enhanced physique, or I'll put downtime, or honorary Avenger, and then I use those as like my protection versus these cards. So I don't have to lose my Helicarrier. I don't have to lose my Avengers Mansion. I could just discard this zero cost upgrade, which I can just play next time I see it. So Caught Off Guard, that's one of the things that is a little bit more frustrating for people, and rightly so. All right, Explosion, I only put it as a level 2 just because it says, if Bomb Scare is in play. If it's not in play, it's going to gain Surge, so that can lead into something worse. But most of the time, even if Bomb Scare is in play, if you're playing solo, it's going to have, 3 threat on it. So that's just going to be 3 damage divided amongst every character in play on the hero side. So if you have an ally, and you can deal a damage to an ally and take 2 damage, or take 3 damage on yourself, and then that card just goes away. So it's not a very scary card. Shocker, again, level 2, just because he has a when revealed effect to deal 1 damage to each hero. He also has a scheme of 1, so he's a little bit more scary than those Hydro Guards. But he's like small potatoes. He's not too scary. This one is a level 2, and we're going to go into a 2 and a little 2.5 or a level 3 threat, just because this one combos with other things. So his Ivory Horn gives him that +1 attack until the end of the game if you don't get rid of it. So on level 1, he's going to have an attack of 3. So, okay, it's not that bad. On level 2, he's going to have an attack of 4. Okay, that's a little bit harder. And if you're playing Expert, he's going to get an attack of from 4 to 5. Now, 5 plus a boost. So now, most of the time, he's going to be hitting you for between 5 and 7, maybe 8. That starts gunning. That's more than half your life total on most of the characters, unless you're playing She-Hulk. So this is why I put this one as a danger. Depending on the aspect you're playing, if you're playing leadership and you always have a blocker, then this is a card that you can just ignore. You can always use your allies to chump block that extra damage. But if you're playing in other aspects and those allies are precious, you might not want to use that. So you might want to spend those 3 physical resources to just get rid of that. In the long run, it's 3 resources to save maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage, depending on how many times he's going to attack you. And because it's the Rhino, most of his signature cards are extra attacks. So that's one thing that you might want to look into, just to try to avoid losing to damage, which is, very probable. All right, let's look at the level 3 threats. Level 3 threats. All right, Stampedes. Now, Stampedes. Why are Stampedes so scary? And this is one thing, and I'm going to teach you a little bit how to avoid losing to cards like Stampede. So the villain, you always know, like one of the things that most people do is, the villain wants to attack, I'll just block with my ally right away. Avoid that, especially against Rhino, okay? Because you know that the first attack is always going to be a basic attack. It's just whatever. It's an attack of 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But there's no effect on it. But if you get Stampede as your encounter card, now he attacks you again, but now if he deals damage to you, you get stunned. So now, oh man, I don't want to get stunned. So what's going to happen is you're probably going to defend to try to not take damage. But what's going to happen is if you do take the damage, then you're exhausted and you're stunned. So unless you're playing Iron Man from the core set, there's not a lot of characters that can ready and just be like, whatever. But the Stampede, if you have that ally, let's say you save that Nick Fury, you save that Mockingbird, just throw Mockingbird or Nick Fury in front of the second attack. boom, you're safe. But you're like, Steve, well, what if he doesn't attack me? Well, whatever. It's a gamble. Obviously, you never know. You could always look at the discard pile and see, oh, what are the odds that he's going to attack me? So, you know what? Oh, there's still, all right, there's still 2 assaults in the deck. We haven't seen any assaults. We haven't seen gang up. We haven't seen stampede. All right, well, man, there's a good chance he's going to attack me. Those are 6 cards out of, let's say, 20 cards. The odds are he might get an extra attack this turn. So, again, looking at the discard pile, knowing what to do. And even if he doesn't attack you, okay, Nick Fury, whatever, it's a wash. But then if you have your Mockingbird, oh, well, at least I can save her for next turn. So it's not a loss. Even though Mockingbird stays there, she doesn't do anything, she can just stay there and be your shield. And that's good. So don't be too hasty and just always sacrificing your allies. Keep your allies for when it actually matters. And this is a card that can actually get you to stay in the game longer because you use something smart to defend against that. Again, if you're playing Spider-Man and you have your like backflips, then you're laughing at these cards. But if you don't, if you're not playing Spider-Man, then think about keeping those allies for the second attacks, not the first ones. The second attacks where it actually matters more. All right, that can ruin you. All right, the other level threat. If you're playing again on standard, false alarm. Now, why is that? Why is false alarm that bad? Well, again, the threshold for the threat is 7. Now, unless you're playing Justice and you have all these allies that can do all the thwarting, you being confused can actually be very, very damaging. Because, again, there's only 7 threat. You don't have an ally. You don't have a way to remove threat. Oh, shoot, I'm going to lose the game. I'm confused. I chose to ignore the threat. It's at 5 out of 7. I have to heal. But if I go down, I can't. And I'm confused. Oh, man. So don't keep that confused status on you. Get rid of it. Exhaust your hero. Lose a turn of damage. Whatever. Again, damage. You'll always be able to do another turn for damage. But if you lose the threat, game's over. So, okay, the longer you can stay in that game by keeping threat under control, you're always going to be safe. Even if you are confused, all right? Just, again, keep threat under control, and then this card is going to be just a no-brainer, easy, get rid of it. Just in case I do have to thwart and I have to use a thwart event to get rid of it, then I'm safe. All right, so false alarm is another good way that people lose because they don't take care of it. If you don't manage these things, it's gonna affect you. All right, side schemes like bomb scare, like breaking and taking, and like crowd control. If you do not deal with these side schemes, it's just going to pile on. Now, most of the times, people will take care of breaking and taking because it's an extra encounter card, and that makes the game harder. So this is often going to be a card that people will choose not to ignore. But bomb scare and crowd control are cards that often I've seen people just ignore. I'll be able to kill him. And then he attacks you, and then you have to defend. Or he gets a guard. Oh, man, I can't finish him because he has a guard. Oh, man, now I'm going to lose the threat because I can't manage the threat. I can't do this. If he attacks me again. You put yourselves in those situations where you are stuck. And you're like, oh, no, if I would have done this, shoulda, woulda. Don't second guess yourselves. You have the time. The game is you're not rushing through it. You're playing a game that you enjoy. There are elements of stability to control. So if you do take the time to get rid of all of these little threats that happen as the game progresses, and you keep your main scheme under control, then you will never lose to Rhino again. All right, especially not if you're playing on standard. Okay, these never happen. As long as you keeping the threat under control, keeping these side schemes out once you see them, managing the little fires, because trust me, you will always have opportunities to deal damage, but removing the threat, if you choose to ignore that too long, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. All right, now let's look at the main threats. So these were level 3, level 4. All right, let's say level 5 threats. All right, these are the main threats. These are the main reasons you are going to lose the game against Rhino. All right, Sandman. Why? Sandman's just a minion. Yes, but he's a minion that comes in with tough. He does not have guard. That is the only saving grace that you have. He does not have guard. But he does have a scheme of 2, an attack of 3, and he has toughness when he enters play. So, one thing is if you are in the beginning of the game and you choose to ignore Sandman, he will come and destroy you. I am not joking. If you choose to ignore Sandman, that extra 3 attack plus Rhino attacking for 2 or for 3, so he's attacking sometimes just as much as the boss. So then you're like, oh man, so I'm Black Panther. Oh, I went from 11 and then I went down to 6. I'm down to 4. Man, I have to go down, but I can't kill Sandman. I don't have enough attack to kill Sandman this turn. I'm exhausted. And I have to recover, or else I'm going to die. And then what's going to happen is you're going to flip down. It's going to advance. He's going to scheme for 2, and you're going to lose the game because the threshold of 7 is going to get met. So choosing to ignore these characters is going to cost you a lot. Okay? So these guys don't have quick strike. They don't have anything. Find a way to get rid of them as soon as possible, because he will come back and destroy. All right, the other cards, but this is more of a damage way of losing, which is primarily what Rhino wants to do. So those charges, man, once he gets those charges, he goes from 2 to 5 or 3 to 6 or 4 to 7, depending on what stage and what difficulty level you're playing. So these cards are very, very easily very, very easy game enders, especially if you did not plan ahead. If you did not keep this threat down to a significantly low, you will see charge come up, and then you will be, oh shoot, I can't take that attack. I have to go to alter ego. Oh no, but there's still 4 threat on this. If he's going to scheme, I'm going to lose the game. Yeah, but that's what happens. Okay, so charge. Once you see charge, I think most of the times is you're going to either try to attack him and try to finish him off and try to go down to alter ego and hopefully survive. But if you don't want to just hopefully survive, there's many ways that you can kind of save yourself from that. Again, if you're playing with the standard decks unmodified, Mockingbird comes in, so you can have Mockingbird come in and stun him while you're in alter ego, and then you know what, he schemes, whatever, and then you come back to hero form, you try to deal some damage. He wants to attack you, he loses his stun, flip back down, okay, oh, okay, I managed the threat, okay, cool, oh, I got my big attack card, all right, perfect, flip back up and finish him off, and he never gets those charges off of him. And these are ways that you can kind of trick the boss and try to control the situation from that point of view. All right, so those charges can be very, very dangerous, especially if you don't take care of them. Now, the other level 5 threat is the advance. Yes, the dreaded advance. But let me tell you something. If you have kept control of the main scheme throughout the game, getting advance will be a walk in the park. You will never be afraid of it because Rhino only schemes for 1. So 1 plus, again, half his deck is 0 or 1. So at most he's putting 2 threat, 3 threat on the main. It doesn't matter. All right? It does not matter. Okay? So unless you're playing expert and you haven't seen Under Fire, which is the only boost of 3 there is, Under Fire is the only card that can make you lose to advance with Rhino. It's the only thing. If you kept it under control. All right? So let's say you get the only chance, so he's 1 for the main. He schemes for 1 plus 3, so that is 4. So that goes up to 5. And then he gets the advance where he schemes for 1, so 6. And then he gets a boost of 1 or 2, and then you lose. That is the only time that you could actually lose to Rhino with double advance or double scheming. But most of the time, even if he schemes twice in a turn, you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm not afraid of that. All right? It's seriously, I think maybe I've lost all the games I played against Rhino. Maybe I lost once, and that's because I was playing expert and I got Under Fire. That was the only time. All right, so that is it, and that is, like I said, advance is going to be a walk in the park if you keep that main scheme down. Don't worry about damage. Keep the main threat under control. And again, Shadows of the Past, that is the alpha of the holy dangers. Again, because it creates a new minion, your nemesis minion, which is very geared towards countermanding whatever you want to do, and an extra side scheme that comes into play. So depending on the character, those side schemes can be pretty brutal. And even that villain can be pretty brutal. So depending on what's going on and what hero you're playing, Shadow of the Past obviously is a game ender for people that are unprepared. So again, if you haven't kept the scheme down low, you can. There's two choices with Shadow of the Past. You can kind of just deal with it, or you can just try to race the boss. Both theories are viable, and I think the reason why a lot of people, lose to Rhino is because they get into this mentality. Oh, I can just race through Rhino and just deal the 29 damage that I need to do to win the game. Or is it 14 and 15? Yeah, 14 and 15. This is just 29 damage. I'm like, whatever. That's super easy. I can just do 29 damage. Oh, look, I got my repulsor blast. Pew, 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 pew. I got my web kick. 8 damage. We're good. We're halfway there. Yes, but then you get into problems like this where something happens and you're like, oh no, now I can't deal with the boss now. I have to deal with this or else I'm going to lose. So it's just, this is where you're going to find yourselves playing not better, but just making choices that are going to just affect the game in a way that you are always in control of what's going on. And if you like that kind of effect, if you like that kind of comfort, then you won't be afraid to go to expert. Okay, because you will see that, oh, okay, Shadow of the Past, okay, whatever. My main scheme is under control. I can deal with this without worrying too much about this. And the only difference here is when you start on expert, you will start on stage 2, which is going to start with a side scheme. And again, don't deal damage. Deal with the side scheme because the side scheme gives you an extra encounter card. So just deal with it. And here's a little trick as well. When you go from stage 2 to stage 3 Rhino, he says when he is revealed, stun each hero. So one little trick that you can do is go from go and finish him off in alter ego. Well, how do I do that? Well, there's allies. Bring him down to like 2 health or 1 health. If you're playing aggression, just have a tag team. Just do 2 damage. Poof, get rid of him. Flip him. You're in alter ego. He's going to get his tough, but at least you're not going to get stunned. So that's another good way that you can avoid that. Because if you are stunned, you lose a turn. He's tough, you lose a second turn. Then that's giving him 3 turns for you to try to catch up. And then when you're playing expert, basically there's only 3 cards that are added to the deck: Master Plan, Exhaustion, and Under Fire. So in the main scheme of things, it's not that bad. Master Plan, all it does is it goes against a side scheme. Now, if you did not take care of these side schemes, all right, if you have not taken care of the side schemes, and there is, let's say, a breaking and taking into play, or there's crowd control, and it goes from 3 to 7, well, now you're in problem because now you have to remove 7 threat, and then you have to make sure that you stay in hero form, remove threat before you can actually start going down. So this is where Master Plan can get a little dangerous, but if not, worst things, it's going to get you an extra. It's going to get you another side scheme, which is going to have 2 or 3 threat to remove, which is still not as bad as 4 extra threat. Or it's going to go through the encounter deck and then, boom, okay, you get an acceleration. Then just kind of hurry up and go through the villain's deck. All right? Exhaustion is going to surge, so it's going to give you another bad card, and it's going to exhaust you, so that's going to make you waste a turn. So that's basically what that card does. And maybe the villain's going to attack you again, or something's going to happen, put a minion. It's not the end of the world. And then Under Fire, again, it's just 2 cards. So it's another surge and another encounter card. So, like, what are the odds? Maybe it's... it just feels bad, but Rhino's kit doesn't have that many bad cards that are just, like, game ending. If you've kept the main threat under control, you should always be fine. All right. So then after that, once you've done this and you've played Rhino a couple times on standard, and you're like, yeah, I like this. all right, I think I have the control that you're talking about, Steve. How can I make him a little harder? Because you'll see. In the beginning, I had the same problem. I thought Rhino was like, holy smokes, this guy is bad. He's wiping the floor with me. But the reason why I was losing so much is because I was choosing to ignore side schemes. I was choosing to ignore the threat and just go for damage. And I think that's why a lot of people lose to this game is, they focus on the wrong things at the wrong time and then just blame the character because, that's the character that sucks. And I'm like, well, maybe it's the decisions you take. Remember, you're the one playing the character. You're the one who is navigating through these decisions, all right? A bad hand is a bad hand, yes. But, that's just, it's a card game. What do you want? All right. And now making Rhino more difficult. I'm going to talk about the other modular sets. There's 5 that come into the core set. But as the expansions go, there's more and more modular sets. So making this villain more difficult is not very hard. One of my 2 favorite ways to play Rhino is Legions of Hydra. Just because there's more Hydra minions, there's more guards. It just gives him that extra edge. Plus, Legions of Hydra is pretty painful and pretty annoying. It's a very good one to do. And Doomsday Chair, MODOK. MODOK he's a pretty bad villain and minion. And he's pretty high up there. He's got 8 health. You don't really want to ignore him too much because he schemes for 2, attacks for 2. And then if you have to go to Alter Ego, well, it's almost an automatic game loss. So if you're playing solo, it's a good challenge to see how you manage that guy plus everything else. So again, Rhino is a very, very customizable. It's a very fun villain to play, to get to know the lane, to try new decks out on. Because, he's very straightforward. If you keep controlled, you can kind of, play around with the threat and just focus on what matters. Threat control is your number 1 priority. Build up your board and then go in for big damage. If you follow that formula, Rhino should always be walk in the park, just like Spider-Man says, All right, guys. So I hope you helped. I hope this video can help you win the game and beat the game more often, guys. Because again, Rhino, he's the introduction. There's ways that he can be very, very mean, but if you take your time and focus on the priorities and look at what's going on the board and prioritize your decisions on, okay, I have a card that can thwart for 3 or I can attack for 8. Ooh, but if I have to go down to Alter Ego, maybe that thwart for 3 is better in the next future turns. So try to just think ahead, and then you should never lose to Rhino again. So guys, this is Steve from Beat the Game. Hopefully this will help you enjoy the game a little bit better, learn how to go from standard to expert, and then, help you win. All right, guys, till next time, keep on playing Marvel Champions, and hope this helps you beat the game. Bye-bye.